and welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. My name is Juliana, and today's reading is going to be all about courage. So we're going to be looking at an area of life that you could use more courage in, and we're going to also look at what courage actually looks like for you in this scenario for, your highest good and the best outcome for you. So it's going to be kind of open, but I do have 4 different groups for you guys. So I've selected actually quote cards for each group, and I'm going to read the quotes to you during the pile selection, and then you can go and decide based on the quote or, however else you want to decide which is your group. As always, please use your own intuition and discernment when deciding what messages are for you. And also, you can always pick a different group if it doesn't resonate, pick more than one, explore them all, do whatever you want. So let's get into the group selection now. We have group 1 over here, and we have this image, and then the quote we have says, "But no matter what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, know that you are so much just as you are right now." From Anne with an E, the TV show. And then for group 2, we have this card here, and the quote says, "If we don't tell strange stories, when something strange happens, we won't believe it." From The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. Then we have this card right here, and the quote says, "I think you know how to love better than any of us. That's why you find it all so painful." And this is from Fleabag, the TV show. And then we have this card right here. And the quote says, "Stop treating your pain like it's something you imagined. If you can see the wound is real, then you can heal it." And this is from Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which is a book. So feel free to go down to the timestamps in the description or in the pinned comment and select your group, and I will see you in your reading. Hi group 1, welcome to your reading. If you selected this quote, "But no matter what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, know that you are so much just as you are right now," from Anne with an E, then you are in the right group. And today's reading, as I mentioned in the introduction, is all about courage. So we're going to look at an area of life that you could use more courage in, and then we're going to look at what courage actually looks like for you in this scenario, because courage is something that's kind of subjective and reliant on context, and it's definitely a concept that we can come at from a lot of different angles. So we're going to look at what the best possible angle is for you in this scenario, area of your life, etc. So I'll discuss the quote, I'm sure, as we get into the reading, but I'm going to flip over the rest of your cards now. So we've got these 2 tarot cards are going to denote what area of life we're going to be exploring courage in. And then I also have a character card. So the character card can help us see more of kind of like what archetype you might need to embody, and it might also give us more ideas about the area of life that we're exploring as well. So let's take a look at your cards. So we have the Wheel of Fortune, and we have the 3 of Swords. Wow, okay. And we have, for your character card, we have Francesca Bridgerton from the Netflix series Bridgerton. And yes, it's really focused on the Netflix character, because at this time I have not read any of the books. So, or at least I haven't read her book. So yeah, but that will just help us get more context for you. So this is already very interesting. We have 2 very, like, I don't know, they're very straightforward cards, like very in your face, I feel like, the Wheel of Fortune and the 3 of Swords. So I feel like an area of life that you are developing courage in is almost like it's around, because when I saw the Wheel of Fortune, my first thought was good luck. Like around experiencing fortune in your life, like experiencing positive things in your life. It's like there's some kind of perhaps resistance or some kind of pattern of projecting pain into your future or experiencing good luck or good things, quote unquote, as bad things, almost. This is interesting. It's not how I thought we'd start out. I'm very curious. All right, let's talk a little bit about Francesca as well, because yeah. Okay, so there's something. Okay, courage. Okay. Okay. It's coming to me now. Because we have no matter what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, know that you are so much just as you are right now. Okay, so there's something around like hearing news or change, even just in general, and feeling like almost like there's this feeling of like this one piece of news that I learn like could make or break me as a person. There's like this idea that, and it might not be a specific thing, but it could be. Maybe there is something specific for some of you where you're like, if this doesn't work out for me, I feel like I don't know what I'm gonna do, you know? But it could also be more of a pattern or an attitude that you have around, like almost feeling like at any moment the floor is gonna fall out from underneath you, and like you're like constantly maybe waiting for like a phone call that's either going to make or break your life, like something that's going to change your life dramatically in a positive way, or something that's going to change your life dramatically in a bad way. But I feel like there's more like leaning towards the bad aspect, like you're convinced almost that like at any second your life is going to completely fall apart, or like something's going to shatter you. um which is so interesting because because we have this quote here which is very reassuring. No matter what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, know that you are so much just as you are right now. It's kind of like, I do feel like this has to do maybe something with something around self-worth, specifically around feeling like you are relying on something external to you for your value. And there's this feeling of maybe feeling like almost like feeling like you are not strong enough to handle the ups and downs of life. Like, I feel like for this group, it's kind of like this general feeling of like, I am not brave enough, I am not strong enough to deal with the natural ups and downs of life that I know will happen. So like there are certain things that we're aware are like 99% they're going to happen within our lifetime. 99 to 100%. And it's like I'm getting the sense of like these big overarching things that everyone experiences in life. So examples would be even as much as, you know, the death of a loved one, for example. You know, there's some people in our lives who, even if we know that intellectually the way that often life goes is that certain people who are older than us will pass on before we do, it's this feeling of like knowing that and knowing that that's a normal process, you still like, it's something that's on your mind that you dread constantly. It's like you're kind of dreading the normal process of life, which I'm not judging, by the way, or saying that that's like a bad thing or not understandable, but it's more like this is what's coming up for you right now because perhaps it's to the point where it's getting in the way of you living your life, or there's something, maybe there's some kind of like impending ending or impending like cycle that's coming to an end, or it's going around right now that you know is going to end, and you can see that happening, and you're dreading it. You know, you're feeling fear around that, and you're wishing that you could feel stronger. There's something about wanting to feel stronger, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're not strong enough to deal with the ups and downs of life in general. And obviously with your quote here, I mean, the idea is that no matter what you learn, no matter what happens, no matter what comes to you, wherever you are right now, whoever you are right now, you are enough, and you can handle it, and you are strong enough. And so, yeah, this is interesting. And with Francesca Bridgerton as the character here, because I feel like some of the stuff I'm getting with the Wheel of Fortune and the Three of Swords feels big and very emotional. But what's funny is that I feel like Francesca, in Bridgerton, by the way, it's like a period romance, and the first time that Francesca Bridgerton is a character that we really get to explore is in this latest season at time of recording, which was season 3. And at time of recording, what we know of her story is that she is the latest daughter to be put out into society, basically to debut in society so that she could find a husband. And she does that. But she's someone who, unlike her siblings, isn't looking for like a big love story, isn't really focused on the drama of romance, doesn't really seem to experience those emotions very strongly, but rather wants something quiet and peaceful. And she's a very quiet girl and can come off as kind of timid and sometimes has trouble standing up for herself, but at the same time she knows what she wants and she's not going to compromise on that in the end. And a big part of her story in the season that we've just left her off in was learning to stand up to her mom and say, hey, like, this is what I want from my life. I know it's not what you imagined. I know it's different from your life, but I have the right to live it the way that I want. And, you know, you don't have to validate that, but, you know, this is what I want, kind of thing. It's a much more emotionally quiet story. There's a lot fewer ups and downs, and I feel like that's something that we're scared of right now. It's like, oh, you're like you're afraid of ups and downs in life. You're afraid of the cycles of it. You want peace, you want quiet. But I also feel like because of this fear of the cycles of life, you're not experiencing the peace that you want to experience, right? Because it's almost like no matter what's happening in your life right now, there's that constant dread that something is going to happen, right? Something is going to flip, something is going to turn. Anxiety, you know, projecting into the future that which has not happened yet, all those kinds of things. And so the area of your life that you're looking to experience more courage in is really just courage to take on life itself. Yeah. Okay, I feel like there's more to it than that, but let's get into the tarot and see what else we can get. So I'm going to ask the question, what does courage look like for you? What does courage look like for you when dealing with this topic, this scenario? And you know, for those of you who actually have been going through some ups and downs lately, maybe dealing with some grief or things like that as well, you know, take this as it resonates, but it's also just kind of like, no matter where you're at, if you're currently experiencing a situation that feels a little bit like an extreme, or you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm just anxious about this. I'm just afraid, you know, I'm just having a lot of anxiety about things that could or could not happen in my life. I'm also getting a sense of like being afraid to experience the highs because you know that means that you'll experience the lows as well. Like being afraid to open up your heart emotionally to experience like things that feel so good because you know that the wheel's going to turn in some way and you feel like it's going to be so wonderful, but then also on the flip side end up being terrible too. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Let's get cards on what does courage look like for you? What does courage look like for group 1? I'll move these cards up once I flip them over. What does courage look like for group 1 in this situation or perspective? Yeah, let's stick with that. Okay. What does courage look like for group 1? Okay. Okay. So, I feel like one more card. We need one more card. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. What does courage look like for group 1? Well, with the 10 of Cups being the first thing. Okay, 10 of Cups, it's like the courage to acknowledge the happiness that you want to experience. So like acknowledging that there are things that you do want to experience in your life that will require courage in the first place, that will require you to come out of your comfort zone, and choosing those things over the fear of the potential heartbreak and loss that you could experience in association with those things. Deciding basically that not only are you worth it, but these things that you want to experience are more valuable than the risk of pain that you can experience if you go for these things. And in that, also choosing the pain that could come along with this as part of the experience and integrating that as a package deal. And so actually what I'm thinking of is, so in Anne with an E, the woman who says this quote, her name is Aunt Josephine, and there's another quote that she says in the show when we first meet her, because she's grieving her, basically, life partner who has passed on recently. And she says that grief is the price that we pay for love. And so she's very sad. She's even crying at the time she says it, but it's the kind of thing where she's experiencing these emotions, and they're difficult and painful. But at the same time, she is someone who is clearly reconciled to this experience. She is willing to have this experience because she recognizes that this emotion is just another product of her experience of love for her partner, that this was a deeply meaningful and moving experience for her. And so she's willing to go through the emotions as well. And she's open enough to allow herself to grieve. It's like, yeah, it's like going into, yeah, so maybe the example, the example of something that this fear of the highs and lows of life, this fear of emotional pain and loss, like the inevitable turning of the wheel when things go up and then they also come down. It's like, instead of seeing that experience as, I'm going to have some good things and then I inevitably will have to have some bad things, see the experience holistically as something beautiful and meaningful that incorporates a myriad of emotions that you will experience, and decide that that's worth it for you. And in fact, that's part of the benefits of the experience, because there is something beautiful about having a deep love and emotional connection to another human being that makes loving them and being with them and spending time with them and really deeply connecting with them in life, it makes that worth it, even knowing that that connection one day will change because that person will die, and or you will die as well. But like, the idea that you could lose that person, or that person will maybe move away, or if it's like a romantic relationship or something like that, or a friendship, you might end up going your separate ways at some point, or lose touch, or things might fade out. But it's like, that doesn't negate the beauty, and it can actually be experienced as part of it, because the reason that you have the grief is because you have so much love. It's both the same thing. And yeah, I feel like for a lot of you, it's accepting emotions not and experiences not as good or bad, but rather as important, meaningful experiences of life that make life worth it. With the Knight of Swords reversed, I also feel like there's something here about not rushing things, or not trying to plan ahead or control things too much, not jumping in or jumping to conclusions, so I'm getting like the idea of, okay. So the example that I'm feeling is someone around you experiences a loss or experiences an emotion, and they're sad, and you don't want to see them feel sad, so you immediately rush in and say, okay, well, how can I fix this? What can I do? Let me make it better. And what actually is maybe the most helpful thing in that moment, if it's just that they're experiencing emotion, there's not really anything to be done about that. The best thing you can do in that moment is to allow them to have that experience, and to be able to be there and hold space for that and connect with that, and let that happen and not need that to be any different than what it is. Almost like, I'm using this as an external example, but it's almost like you might do this with people around you and with yourself, where when you're feeling an emotion, you're like, how I need to fix this. I can't be feeling this right now. Which, hi, I got you. I know. I do the same thing. I feel you. I don't know if it's my Virgo moon, but I definitely deeply intellectualize my emotions at times. To an extreme that is just not helpful, because I don't feel them, I don't process them. I just think about them and like logic them out, and sometimes try to logic myself out of them, and then also sometimes try to do things to get rid of them. And while you can always, take a step back, and if there's something that's going to help you process the emotion, you can recognize that and do that thing. Sometimes we do that out of the inability to sit with the emotion. And you can see that very well in the inability to sit with someone else's emotion, as well as the inability to sit with your own. And if you are not feeling capable of sitting with your own emotions, you're not really going to feel capable of sitting with someone else's. Chances are. Everyone's a bit different in how they experience that. So there's like an over-intellectualization of emotions that's happening that's not allowing you to feel them, and it's almost like making them feel worse and making you more resistant to the emotional experience. Because it's like a muscle that you have to work. Once you work the muscle of emotional experiences, where you're allowing yourself to feel them, like the more you do that, the less deeply uncomfortable it often feels, and the more reflexive it is to just let yourself feel the thing. It's kind of like, okay, this might gross some of you out, but I don't care. I'm going to use this example. It's a good example. It's like when you need to throw up and like you're sick and you know that you need to. You know how some people like really try to hold it down, like they don't let it come up? It's the same thing with emotions. It's like you're doing that with emotions. And it's, that once you let it come up, like there's going to be a few moments of extreme discomfort, and then there's going to be relief, right? Because a lot of times you throw up and then you feel better. And it's like when you let yourself feel the emotion, even to the extreme extent, it feels really bad for a second, and then boop, it feels better right after. And so when you actually just avoid that and you shove it down and shove it down and shove it down, don't let it come up, you're just prolonging the experience of nausea, right? You're just prolonging the experience of like pressure building in you that's like, it won't come out. And the better you get at just letting the emotions pass through you, like storm clouds, like the more reconciled with and attuned to and allowing you will be of the emotional experiences that happen and of the things that could trigger those emotional experiences, because you'll accept them as part of life, and instead of trying to intellectualize them and shove them down or plan or control things in a way to prevent them from happening, you'll be able to move with them and accept them and allow life to happen. Allow yourself to really live. Just let your life happen. It's like when I went to Ireland, and it's such a beautiful country, and it's so rainy there a lot of the time. When I went, especially, was in spring, and it's so green and beautiful, but it rains a lot. And it's like, because in order for the land to be so lush and green and beautiful, it has to rain a lot. And so like the more that you allow the rain to pass through you, and the rain always passes, and then the sun comes out, and then it rains again, and then it passes and the sun comes out. And the more you allow the rain to pass through you without being like, oh my God, I hate this, my hair's gonna get all wet, I'm gonna be like so gross, I'm gonna be so uncomfortable, like all these like thought patterns that are telling you that this is bad and wrong and it shouldn't be like this. The more you let go of those thoughts and allow those to fall away and allow the emotion to just move through you, the faster it'll move through you, and the more that you'll be able to move on, and also maybe even learn to enjoy or appreciate aspects of the emotional experience as well. That feeling of like, of bittersweetness, of feeling like, wow, like, for example, I really miss this person. They meant so much to me. I love them so much, blah, 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 blah. And I wish that we could, I wish they were still in my life in the same way, but they're not. And realizing that's a product of some beautiful things that you experienced. And sometimes even a product of maybe some complicated things that you experienced. But if you allow yourself to first feel it and feel into that, you won't shut yourself down from the beauty that's around you right now, right? Like you won't lose someone and then be like, wow, I really wish I got to know them better. Wow, I really wish that I explored that connection with them. Wow, I really wish that I tried that I asked them this thing or that thing, that I sat with them, that I spent more time with them. That, I'm using the example of like a personal loss because all of us experience that at some point. And I think most people can really relate to that, but it could be about anything, It could be about anything, any dreams or aspirations you have or whatever, will bring you emotional fulfillment. So not being so in your head is going to help with that. Four of Wands reversed. Letting go of resistance to joy and celebration as well, because it's like, let more of that in, and also realize that, yes, pain and grief and things like that are all part of life, but just because you're happy doesn't mean that you're going to immediately crash and be sad, or that that's inevitable, or that's going to have to happen. Like, it's also getting rid of the inevitability of, like, terrible things or terrible emotional experience, like not tying the experience of joy to the experience of horror so much that you feel like anytime you experience joy it's just going to be bad, so like I'm not going to like celebrate or experience joy or anything. I feel like for some of you there's a need to do this within yourself, but also connecting with others. Like, there might be a resistance right now to connecting with others or celebrating with other people or truly letting yourself be happy at all. And for some of you, that it's a muscle. You have to work it. So you don't have to be like quote unquote good at experiencing joy or emotions in order to work towards doing so in a way that will allow you to live a more emotionally fulfilling life. Because I do really just feel like and you know what? With Francesca Bridgerton, she's starting to make more sense to me, because I do feel like for her, she's someone who gets easily overwhelmed. She likes the quiet, she likes the peace. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's actually a very important part of the show that she stands up for herself and says, hey, I want you to accept me for who I am and how I want to live my life. I think that's important. And I don't think that it's wrong or incorrect that she wants a quiet life and isn't interested in the highs and lows of, romantic passion. Although, by the end of her season, we do see that she might be in for a new experience whenever her season comes around. So that is something that we know her character might be challenged on in the future, in having a different experience. But it's kind of like, you're at liberty to be someone who wants a peaceful, quiet, like, nice life that's not noisy and full of, like, high emotion and passion and drama. You can have a drama-free life and want a drama-free life from the perspective of someone who's also open to having emotional experiences and being connected with your emotions and your feelings, and being open to deep connection and deep love in the way that it's going to come to you, without completely avoiding anything that you feel like is going to make you feel an emotion, right? It's like from a space of contentedness with life, not from a space of, I am terrified of life, so I'm going to avoid it at all costs, right? Like, you can have emotions and also enjoy a quiet, peaceful life. But there's a difference between that and avoiding life at all because you are afraid of your emotions. And I said that with like a little judgment in my voice. I don't mean it like, I'm sorry, because I know this experience. I understand it. Probably most of us can experience this to an extent. But I do feel like some of you need to be real with yourselves about it. And so my tough love is coming out a little bit. But I want to say, this can be a gradual process. It's a muscle that you build up. It's like working out, but you got to work out your emotional body as well. And there's so many different ways that you can do this. I will sound like a broken record if I list them all, but you can also look it up, like how to get more comfortable with experiencing my emotions. I'm going to tell you what, this Five of Cups right here, that's about perspective, right? And so on the original Five of Cups, it's like the person is looking at 3 spilled cups in front of them, but not seeing the 2 full cups behind them. And if they were to just turn around, they'd see they still have those 2 full cups, but they're too distracted by the spilled cups. So for a lot of you, what's happening is that you think that you're avoiding pain and heartbreak, but what you're actually doing is focusing on the pain and heartbreak and making that more of a big deal in your life than you want it to be. And if you just turn around and look at the full cups and look at the things that are working and make that more of a part of your life, and don't be afraid to celebrate that. Celebrate even the smallest things. Turn those little moments into moments of joy. Like the little moment when it's like, oh man, I spilled my glass of margarita, but I've still got a blender full of more margarita, so even though I'm missing some of my margarita, I still have some left. And you know what? At least I didn't spill the whole blender, right? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I don't know. And so yeah, like it's just like being real with yourself about where you're placing your focus. And for a lot of you, you're afraid of that heartbreak because you're focused on the heartbreak. You're not focused on the moments of joy, and you're missing that. And I want deeply for you, group 1, to not miss out on the joy, okay? Because you're experiencing the pain anyway. You're just not letting yourself fully feel it, and you're not letting yourself experience joy in addition to that. So like you're just kind of giving yourself more pain right now. And it just takes like a little bit. See, I feel like this, I don't want to get, it just takes like a little bit of courage to just sit for a moment when you're feeling an emotion before racing to the thing that you usually do when you feel a feeling and you don't want to feel it. Just count to like 5. Like sit with yourself, take a deep breath, count to 5, and let yourself feel for like 5 seconds before you go to your coping mechanism. Like, let that be your first act of courage towards yourself, right? If this emotional example is resonating with you, just let that be the thing. Disrupt the pattern for like 5 seconds, and then you can do whatever you want. But acts of courage can be small, they can be gradual, you can build upon them. And you can even, if you do that, you do your 5 seconds, and then you do whatever after. Maybe you go right to your pattern, whatever you do. But take a moment to celebrate that 5 seconds. Be like, hey, you know what? I did it. Cool. I'm kind of brave. And then go on your way. And just start with that. Like, or whatever way that you can do that for yourself in this scenario. And the next time that there's something in life that's maybe a small disappointment, like maybe it's a small disappointment and you still feel really bad about it, but it's something that's not as huge and overarching as like a death in the family or something like that. It's like, you lost your pencil, It's a small thing, but you might still feel some big disappointment over that. Take that as an opportunity. Be like, oh, this is practice. This is practice. For me letting myself feel my emotions, experience disappointment, even in a mild way, experience a letdown. It's an opportunity. So turn that around from a setback to an opportunity, and just say that in your mind. You don't have to believe it right away. Say it in your mind. It's an opportunity. And then let yourself feel the disappointment over that pencil. Count to 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, with that emotion. And then see where that gets you, work that muscle. But you can do it in small little ways and then be like, wow, it's so brave of me. I lost a pencil and I felt really sad about it. I'm so brave. You know what I mean? And like, over time, that's going to build on itself and you're going to feel braver about stuff. And I take it from me because I know, And these are things that I've had to actively do, and I'm still working on in my life. And it's like not gonna say, it's not to say that you won't still have moments where things overtake you, or you still avoid things, or like you're just not ready to face them in the moment. Like that will still happen, but you'll be ready to do it sooner than you would have in the past, and you won't avoid things as much, and you won't even notice exactly, you might not even notice how much better you're getting at facing all these kinds of things, and just taking on new opportunities for just living your life, you know? And the 10 of strength, the 10 of wands here, that's burdens, you know? I feel like it's another act of courage for you is recognizing how much this avoidance of the cycles of life and of emotions is actually burdening you. And it's kind of like letting yourself off the hook. Like, yeah, I feel sad sometimes. Yeah, that makes me really angry. Yeah, I get really disappointed over this thing. And let that be okay in the moment and let it pass, you know? Because what happens when you don't face these things, when you're like, I shouldn't be feeling this way about this thing, it's like your emotions don't matter. Your feelings, oh god, your feelings don't care about fact. Your feelings do not. They do not, and they should not, because they're not meant to. Okay? You can't logic yourself out of your feelings. You've just gotta feel them. Take this from someone who knows. I am a Virgo moon. I have tried very hard to logic myself out of all of my feelings. Okay? You cannot do that. Avoidance is not the answer. You can live as quiet and happy a life as you want, but you will be happier if that's not out of avoidance of the things in life that make you feel things, and it's just out of what you actually truly want out of life. And I say that because of Francesca Bridgerton. And in some ways her avoidance of things, it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, like with her not wanting the same life as her family members. There's nothing wrong with her feeling overwhelmed in a crowd, not wanting to go to parties, not wanting to be a part of the hubbub, not wanting a huge, sweeping, dramatic romantic story. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think in this case, she's being brought up because it's like, you're running from these things without facing them and growing through them so that you can have more peace within you, rather than creating a kind of half peace that's not really bringing you fulfillment. And you'll know if this is resonating with you, you'll be like, yeah, I'm not actually happy. Like, I am avoiding things. Like, you can be more at peace with yourself if you're not living in dread and fear of potential happenings because you don't trust yourself to manage your emotions and handle them properly. Because, like, baby, we all need to practice that kind of thing. None of us are going to handle it perfectly, quote unquote. We're not here to be perfect. I mean, we are perfect in our imperfections. That's all true. It's all good. It's all great. But, like, that's okay. It's okay. I'm speaking as much to myself as I am to you guys right now. It's okay. You can feel your feelings. You can feel your feelings, and you're gonna be okay. You are strong enough. You are strong enough. Some of you don't know that, but you are strong enough to face these things. And you don't have to throw yourself into the fire in order to face these things. You can do it in very small ways. It's just an incremental perspective shift that can take place over time. And that in and of itself, if you can just keep going on that track, keep letting yourself notice your feelings one at a time, take small steps in that direction, it's gonna build up a lot over time, and you'll be surprised, and you're gonna live a very fulfilling life that way. So, cool, interesting. Longer than I wanted this to be, so I'm gonna move on to group 2. I hope this was really helpful for you. Just know that no matter what happens, what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, about yourself, about life, about your emotions, just know that you are so much just as you are right now. And yeah, be brave in all your little ways, you know. You don't have to go crazy with it. You're doing great, and it's honestly, this is just coming up because you're ready to take the next step. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, and thank you for watching. If you're interested in any of our services, please check the link in the description below, sunflowerphilosophy.com, for more about hypnosis, tarot, human design. And please like, comment, subscribe if you wish, and I will see you in another reading sometime soon. Bye! Hi, Group 2. If you selected "If we don't tell strange stories, when something strange happens, we won't believe it," from The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale, then you are in the right place. Wow, I hope you saw that because I was not holding that in frame. Great. And today's reading, as I mentioned in the intro, is all about courage and how you can cultivate that, and like what area of life are you needing more courage in right now, and what does courage look like for you right now. So we are going to start, we have your quote, which I'll discuss as we get more into the reading, but I also want to show you your cards we have. So we have these tarot cards representing the area of life that you need more courage in, and then a character card to help get more information, like what archetypes might be related to your situation, what you can embody, how you can implement courage into your life, whatever's going to come through with the character cards. It's just for more information. So let's get your tarot cards. So we have the 5 of Wands and the Knight of Wands, and we have Faramir for your character card from Lord of the Rings, and mostly from the film, because that's what I'm most familiar with. So, okay, well, starting immediately with the tarot cards here, the area of life that you need more courage in is quite simply, I think, standing up for yourself. Standing up for your beliefs, I heard. In some way, shape, or form. So it'll be different for all of you, I'm sure, the context. But I do feel like with the Wands here, first of all, 5 of Wands can be conflict. And I feel like this Knight of Wands is riding in towards this conflict. And he's on his horse, and he's got his big wand up here, and like it's all these like little peasants fighting down here, which sounds a little condescending, but like I think maybe it's like there's all these competing beliefs and stuff like that, but then there's this Knight of Wands, and he's on his horse, and he's not gonna let anyone, take his wand from him. He's got the high ground, and there's something here about, I feel like, conflict or conflicting opinions, even conflicting beliefs, maybe getting in the way of you experiencing and understanding what you truly believe and what you truly want, like what you truly value and what you truly want to stand for, and your experiences, validating your own experiences. So standing up for your beliefs might mean standing up to yourself a bit. That can be a way that that courage is coming up for you right now, is like even standing up to your own self-talk, where when you're like, well, I had this experience and it meant this to me, and then your self-talk is like, no, that's stupid, that doesn't really happen, that's not really true, and like it could be anything. It could be like spiritual beliefs, it could be religious beliefs, it could be values that you have around how you want to live your life, values that you have around how you want to treat people, how you want to be treated, and how you want to experience your life. Anything like that. It also could be standing up for yourself, or like removing yourself from the cycle of drama or conflict. Like for example, if you're in a space where there's a lot of drama and conflict going on, and you're realizing that this is not good for you, this isn't how you want to live your life. Maybe there's a lot of shame built into this culture that you're in, and you're realizing it doesn't align with your values. It's standing up for your values and saying, hey, whether to another person or to yourself, just, hey, I'm not gonna allow myself to participate in this petty behavior because I've realized that it's not working for me anymore, and so I don't want to be a part of that. It's letting yourself stand out from and stand above the crowd, and standing firm in that. With "If we don't tell strange stories, when something strange happens, we won't believe it," from The Goose Girl, it's almost like I'm seeing that relating to your situation as being like there is something that maybe a group of people that you're around, that are surrounding you, like there's a belief system that they have, and then there's your belief system that's sort of standing separate from that, and other people don't necessarily believe in your perspective, because they haven't had that experience. But you have, and you know that you do, and you can validate your own experience, and you don't need other people to do that. And so standing firm in your story of life and how you want to experience your life and what you've experienced and what you truly believe in, well, that's going to open up doors for other people to be like, oh, could life be that way? Could we behave differently? Could we think differently? Could we see it differently if we wanted to? And that's great for them, but it's also great for you because you're like, yeah, no, I know who I am. I know what I've experienced. I know what I believe. And I am sticking to that, even if the people around me, sometimes it feels harder to go against the current than it is to go with it. But when you're really truly going against your own grain and your own values by going with the current, it gets harder to actually go with the current. You got to be like the salmon swimming upstream, back to your source, back to your true self, right? Back to your authenticity. Dead fish flow with the current, right? Because they got no choice. They're dead. You're not a dead fish. You're a salmon. I hope that's an analogy. I was in a druidry workshop yesterday. Long story, and that analogy came up at one point. And I thought that was really useful. So that popped into my head just now. So yeah, there's like some swimming against the current that you got to do. And with Faramir as your character here, I mean, he is someone who is really, his self-worth has been kind of destroyed by his father and his family situation, where his brother Boromir was more favored than he was, and he stopped valuing himself in his life, and he didn't know how to please his father and everything. And so it's kind of like taking the lesson from Faramir that you are worthwhile, and that sometimes when the people around you don't see or value you in the same way that you do, or see things in the same way that you do, you forget your own worth, and you forget that your perspective is valid, and that you should not let yourself be basically like beaten up just for the sake of, other people's perspectives that are not for you, right? Like preserving their lies, or not even lies. Like if that's how they truly, if someone truly believes their perspective, then that's one thing, but that doesn't mean that you have to, right? It's not your perspective. Being able to separate yourself from that and say, I'm worthwhile all on my own without the validation of people around me. I know that can be easier said than done, but hey, that's why it takes courage, baby. That's what we're here for. Courage, I should have defined courage, honestly, in the other group and the intro. But everyone's got their own idea of courage, I feel like. But courage, to me, it's like you're doing something because it aligns with your values, even if it scares you. It's like you're scared, but your heart is like, I want this anyway, so I'm gonna go for it. And so if this is resonating right now, you've got that in you. You've got it in you to face, other people, to face yourself, even where you're being, where you're at conflict with yourself, where you're having trouble validating your own experiences and stuff like that. You have the courage to do that. You're more than capable of doing that because it's important to you, because you believe in it, because you've kind of got no choice, because you don't want to be a dead fish going with the current. Now, on the other hand, going with the flow of life, it's kind of like you're not going with someone else's current. You're going with your own current, which might be going in a different direction than someone else's. So you're still going with the flow, but you're going with the flow that is natural to you. You're going with your flow, not someone else's that doesn't feel right. That kind of thing. So let's get more information on what courage looks like for you in this scenario, okay? Beep. What does courage look like for group 2 in this scenario? What does courage look like for group 2 in this scenario? What does courage look like for group 2 in this scenario? And what does courage look like? That's too many. What does courage look like for group 2 in this scenario? One more card. What does courage look like for group 2 in this scenario? Okay. All right. Two of Pentacles. All right, Two of Pentacles, 10 of Cups, 7 of Pentacles, 6 of Cups, the World. Okay. So, courage for you. With the Two of Pentacles, there's an element of balance here, of being balanced. I'm feeling like balance can be... something about how this character on this card is reading a book right now. It's balance between the time that you spend around other people and their energies and the time that you spend with yourself in your own energies doing whatever it is that you want to do. So for some of you, because this is coming up as what courage looks like for you right now, courage for you looks like spending more time with yourself, putting more time aside to just be in your own energy. And some of you might have trouble doing this because you might have a busy schedule. You might be accustomed to and have a pattern of just going out and like being around people all the time. But in order to gain more clarity around your own values and to gain more courage and more like a firmer grasp of what is truly in your heart and is truly important to you outside of all the noise that's going on around you, more time with yourself is necessary. And this is a balance card, so it's not about removing yourself completely, but it is about giving yourself equal time, or whatever the most balanced thing is for you right now. So like if you're so out of balance in that you're always spending time around other people, for example, and you're never spending time with yourself, a more balanced approach might be swinging the pendulum kind of far to the other side and really taking like a day or two to even just be completely with yourself. For others, it might be more about, okay, I, spend this much time with other people and then an equal amount of time alone, that kind of thing. For those of you where you're like, well, I do feel like I spend a lot of time just by myself, I'm not around other people's energies all the time. Do you let yourself do that and not feel guilty for it and not feel bad about it and not feel like you're missing out or feel like you need to be around other people? Do you feel like you're self-isolating from a place of shame rather than a place of self-love? Look at all these things and see if anything like that is pulling on your energy, because then you're not really truly being with your own energy. And there's different kinds of ways you can approach dealing with that. But I feel like for a lot of you, there's some kind of imbalance here that you are being called to courageously address. And a lot of that is like really just spending time reading the books you want to read, looking into the things that you want to look into that align with your values and your interests that you feel like are not necessarily accepted or are going against the grain of whatever is going on around you, because that is an act of self-love and that's an act of courage. When you let yourself explore what you're drawn to, even if it's to the contrary of what others around you believe in, agree with, whatever, So that's an act of courage right there. 10 of Wisdom, emotional fulfillment, like letting yourself be happy in whatever situation you're in right now, that's an act of courage. Letting yourself believe in a fulfilling future as well as a fulfilling present for yourself. Perhaps in this example, there's a lot of people around you who are very negative, and maybe they just don't have a very good outlook on life, or a very positive outlook on life, or an outlook on life that aligns with your vision of life. And it's okay, they can have that, but an act of courage for you is maintaining your own optimism about your life, your own vision for your life, believing in futures, believing in possibilities. Because that's how they open up for you. If you stay closed, if you shut yourself down, then yeah, sure, that those possibilities are not part of your reality. But when you open up to them, they are. Simple as that. If the people around you aren't open to the same possibilities that you are, that's their choice. But you can make a different choice. And so for you, honestly, I feel like just like being satisfied and also seeking satisfaction and believing in the possibility of a bright future and emotional fulfillment for yourself, like that in and of itself is an act of courage for you right now. The 7 of Pentacles, patience, letting yourself, okay, so like sometimes when there's a tendency towards a more quote unquote negative mindset, or just a mindset that has a more shadowy outlook, a less positive outlook, it's because you look at what's around you in the moment and you're like, I don't see the progress yet. And you get impatient. If you're impatient and if you're not seeing the progress that you're making right away, instant gratification, right? So it's the daring to not need instant gratification, to be able to allow things to be as they are right now and believe that they are continuing to grow and change and develop into what you want them to develop into without needing to see immediate results. So that's courage right now. Courage to let things grow, to give things the space to grow and flourish, to plant the seeds and let them be, to care for them and nurture them and believe in them. It's like, having, I don't know, a plant, and you plant the seed, and it's like, okay, I had a seed that I brought home from a trip, and it wasn't growing, and I wasn't really watering it. I didn't really believe in it, and I was like, I should get rid of it. But then I was like, what if I just tried watering it every day? And it had been weeks, months even. Everyone else was like, that thing is dead. Like, it's not growing at all. There was not even a sprout. It's like, it's just a seed, just throw it out. And I was like, what if I did try to water it every day and just put it in the sun and like really take care of it? Because part of me was like, I don't know, maybe they're right. And then the other part of me was like, I think there's still hope here. And so I did start doing that just to see what happened out of curiosity, and I stuck with it. And then guess what? Like 3 months later, it actually sprouted and then it grew. And then since then I, fell off again and I let it die. But the point is that it was kind of a little miracle. I didn't expect it to grow at all, and then it did. And I was just willing to put in the time and the effort and have faith in it and believe in it when no one else did. And look what happened. So you can do that with anything. And so I think there are things that maybe you believe in that are important to you that maybe just no one else around you supports or believes in or thinks is worth your time. But if you really truly feel that way, going against that grain and having the patience to let the thing play out and see and have curiosity and not necessarily need it to turn out a certain way in a certain time, but have the curiosity to let it. And not be, and if you're not focused on instant gratification, you're less focused on, oh no, this thing just didn't work out, it sucks, it's not worth my time, I wasted my time. It's more like, I was curious, I wanted to see what would happen, and I did. And I put that time in. And there's something really valuable about that and wonderful about that. And not everyone is willing to do that right now, and also people have different values. So just because someone has a different value than you have doesn't mean that you can't have your values. I do feel for a lot of you, there's like a lot going on around you that's making it hard for you to really stick to your guns and stick to what's in your heart and follow your heart. And courage right now is being willing to be patient, to tune all of that out, to be present, to stick with what you believe in and not listen to people being like, why would you do that? That's not going to yield anything. That's going to be a waste of time. It's like, it's not a waste of time if you want to do it. So we have 6 of Cups reversed. Okay, so this is getting out of your head. So like this person is like fantasizing about stuff on this card, reading and escaping reality, right? Which, nothing wrong with that. I do that. I love that. I love stories. Stories are great. And stories are a great opportunity to not only escape reality, but also to understand reality in a different way, to explore different possibilities, to explore different perspectives and viewpoints, and explore our own perspectives and viewpoints based on how we respond to different stories. So first of all, nothing wrong with that. Like reading and escapism is great, but also it can be a great tool if you are using it in a very conscious way. And that's super fun and awesome. But for some of you right now, getting out of your head, getting out of your fantasy, and actually doing the thing, and maybe even, getting out, because it's like, okay, like I said, like reading over here, it's kind of like reading up on or reading into or looking into things that, other people around you might be too afraid to look into, or like don't value the way that you do. So like, yeah, like learning new things and learning and leaning into like a new genre or field or whatever you want to explore, or thought, idea, like value system, thought process. I don't know. But it's also like not living in your head and actually doing the thing out in the world, right? Not living so much in your head. All of this is kind of relating to the same outcome, which is that you're going against the grain and you might be afraid to do it, but you're not letting that stop you. Because it's courage. Courage doesn't exist without fear, all right? So feeling fear of this is not a problem. It's an experience that you're having. And that's okay. And the world card over here, it's like, this is like the completion of a cycle. So for some of you, having this courage in this area of your life is going to end some kind of cycle for you that's maybe been keeping you stuck for a long time. But this is a celebratory card, and I feel like this is saying this is the end of the end of letting external conflict, energies around you that just are not aligned with you, people around you that are not aligned with you. It's the end of letting that get in your way. You're claiming your own power again. And when you choose to step up and courageously stand on your own and go against the current around you to the beat of your own drum, flowing with your own current, you realize that you never have to get stuck in anyone else's current ever again. So it's kind of just like ending the cycle where you even feel tugged and pulled in this direction or that direction by other people's beliefs, right? You're very connected with yourself. And it's not sticking with your own beliefs and sticking to your own values. It's not about like, oh, I am stubbornly never going to consider another person's perspective ever. It's not that. It's more like, in your heart, you've weighed and measured. I'm also thinking of like the Two of Pentacles with the person balancing the coins. It's like you're willing to weigh and measure the input that you get from society around you against what you truly feel in your heart, and notice when something clicks and feels like it's right for you and when something doesn't. And be flexible and flow with that, not out of any external pressure, but out of an internal knowing. And that's what you're stepping into. And yeah, and so dare to be different. The Knight of Wands to me is very daring energy in general, and I feel like you've got a lot of courage and bravery already, and it's a matter of just taking that to the next level. And so you'll know if there's any specific area of your life where this applies, but it overall feels like a very exciting opportunity for you to really just break out of a cycle and step into a new you, by embracing courage in this area of your life and in this way. And I think that's all I've got. But I also feel like with this quote here, just one more thing, is that you doing this is going to be exciting to other people. There might be people around you who will really benefit from seeing you do your own thing, whether or not you see that reflected towards you or not. Like whether or not someone seems supportive or not, I do feel like there's a lot of people who will benefit from you really just telling your strange story, being yourself, and letting other people believe in what you believe in through living that experience in front of them, And so it's like when someone's it's one of the great things about storytelling is that when we're presented with a story, we're presented with a new way of thinking about something and experiencing something and a new perspective. And we can choose to take that on and we can choose to not. But we don't know that we have that option until it's presented to us. So I think you're presenting a lot of people with new options just by being you, right? And just think of it that way, And other people don't have to see that, but you can see that. Other people will have their own things that they're trying to do that they don't feel like other people believe in them about. Like everyone will have that. You just have to trust that, you know yourself and you're worthwhile, and the things that you want and things that you believe in are worthwhile enough to go for it, no matter what the people around you want. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's all I've got for you. So yeah. All right. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you are interested, check out the link in our description, sunflowerphilosophy.com. We offer tarot, hypnosis, and human design services. Also, please like, comment, subscribe if you wish. And I will see you in another reading sometime soon. Bye. Hi, Group 3. If you selected the quote, "I think you know how to love better than any of us, that's why you find it all so painful," from Fleabag, then you are in the right place. And today's reading, as I mentioned in the intro, is all about courage. And so we're going to look at what areas of life you could use more courage in, and then what courage actually looks like for you in this scenario or situation. And so I've got a couple tarot cards here for you. Actually, no, you're group 3, you were a little different because the other groups all got 2 tarot cards and you only got 1. And I was only intending to get 1 originally, but everyone else, just 2 wanted to pop out. So we got 1 for you. So we're going to assume that that's enough information. So your tarot card is the Moon. Wow. Interesting. And I also have a character card here, so we're using character archetypes to get some more information and context. So your character is Barbara Gordon from DC Comics, also known as Batgirl or Oracle. I'm not sure if she has any other monikers that she ever goes by, but that's who I know her as. And we have the Moon, which is interesting because that in and of itself can be a card that represents fear and confusion and like the shadow side of us. So yeah, courage and fear. I mean, those two things, those go together. We don't, oops, sorry. I just shook the table there. We don't experience courage if we are not feeling fear, because without fear, courage would have no reason to exist as a concept. So, honestly, the area of your life you might need to experience more courage in is in facing your fear in general. Facing like the fact that you have fear at all, really. But it also could have to do with, this is gonna, I went really deep first, and then I'm gonna switch to something that's way less deep, or seems way less deep for a second. But it also could just be like straight up a fear of the dark, or fear of nighttime. And that can be literal, and that can also be the metaphorical dark, the unknown, that which is unexplored within yourself. Barbara Gordon being Batgirl from the comics, whether you know her or not, she is Batgirl, and all the Bat family, to me, are kind of representative of like the nighttime, the gritty underbelly. They're caped crusaders, they're vigilantes, they work in the dark, that kind of thing. And Barbara is the daughter of the police commissioner, so it's kind of like two sides of the same coin of justice, right? One is the police commissioner who is tasked by law and validated by society to protect people and the city and theoretically, actually save people and stop crime and bring people to justice. And then we have the vigilantes who are taking it upon themselves, without the validation of society around them, to do that kind of work. And so Barbara is like going outside of her family's comfort zone to kind of do the same thing that her father is doing, but in a different way. And it's also notable to say that Commissioner Gordon does work with Batman, so he's like open to that. he's down to expand outside of the confines of the law, and in order to get things done and to bring people to justice. But it's an important point that Barbara, being his daughter, is really kind of taking it to the next level. So there might be something in that story that's important for you. And then we have, "I think you know how to love better than any of us, that's why you find it all so painful." I feel like there is a real sense of duty that you feel potentially to other people, to protect people. And it could be related to this fear of the darkness in some way, where it's kind of like you feel like some of you, maybe you feel so intensely about things, maybe so passionately, that you're afraid to peer into the darkness and the unknown because you're afraid of what you'll find there, because you know it's going to be a very emotional experience for you. If that makes sense, which I hope it does. Because also Fleabag, what the quote is from, is about a character who's going through kind of a life crisis, and she's a character who makes a lot of decisions that don't seem to make sense or don't seem to be even likable necessarily, but at the same time we come to understand where she's coming from, what got her here, and how she's experiencing the world. And we realize that sometimes a deeply feeling person might act in ways that portray them almost as the opposite, right? And so I feel like for a lot of you, maybe you're afraid of seeing the truth of your shadow side because you're afraid of what it's going to say about who you are as a person. And there's like a part of you, almost like a masked, disguised part of you, that you're afraid to acknowledge and face truly head on, because you're afraid that it's going to mean that you're a bad person or something like that. And with Barbara Gordon here having her Batgirl personality, she's not afraid to go into the darkness, or even if she is afraid, she still does it anyway, in order to do what she feels is right. And so I feel like for this group, it's almost like she's a character that you can emulate. And there's a lot of different iterations of her, so like different storylines of hers might resonate with you more, and you don't even have to be familiar with this character in order to take something from, obviously, her storyline. But for some of you, it's like the idea of accepting that there are different sides of you, being able to face those different sides of you, and being able to acknowledge them and integrate them all as part of you, because also with the character of Fleabag, it's kind of like she has to accept the things that she's done that has hurt other people, and the parts of herself that she feels like are damaged beyond repair, in order to move forward and with her life and move on and move into a more emotionally secure place where she can leave the things that she has maybe guilt over or shame over behind, and like leave the shame and the guilt behind. So, all right, let's get some cards for this now. Let's get some cards for what does courage look like for you when you're facing this? What does courage look like for you? Okay. What does courage look like for group 4 when facing these fears? This side of themselves. What does courage look like for group 4? What does courage look like for group 4? What does courage look like for group 4? That's too many cards. Let's get 2 more. Okay, and 1 more. That's too many, guys. No. 1 more card. What does courage look like for group 4? Okay. Alrighty. So, what does courage look like for group 4 right now with this particular issue, which is, I think, facing like a shadow self, facing the fears or facing the sides of yourself that you are afraid to face right now. So, we have the World card reversed. Which is interesting because the World card upright just came out in the other group, and I did shuffle, but the fact that it came out reversed for this group feels significant. Almost like maybe you're at the beginning of a new cycle. Like maybe you have to initiating maybe facing this side of yourself is starting a new cycle for you in your life. I feel like with the Knight of Pentacles, patience is a big thing. Slow and steady wins the race. Courage for you right now means taking things slow, allowing yourself to patiently ease into this work. Like for a lot of you, this is shadow work of some kind, and shadow work just being like a conscious adventure into the depths of yourself, exploring what's underneath. A song just came to my head. The one, what is it called? I don't know if it's called It's Alright, It's Okay, but that's in the lyrics. And it's like, there's this part that says, I don't want to see what's inside. I don't want to know I'm not capable of coming out alive. So it's someone who's afraid to like look inside themselves because they're afraid they're not going to make it to the other side of that. Like they're afraid that whatever they find there is going to be so terrible and scary that they can't come out the other side. And it's kind of like, you don't have to rush this process. You can take it one step at a time, and it's more of like a slow and steady and consistent effort towards opening yourself up to the parts of you that you've disowned for so long, that's going to make the difference here. With the Two of Pentacles reversed, acknowledging that there is an imbalance in how you see the world right now because of this part of yourself that you're shoving away. That's courage for you. And it doesn't mean resolving that imbalance immediately, although this might help you do that. But it's like even admitting that you could be seeing things from a biased perspective that you might change your mind about later on. And also acknowledging where some of your shadow side might be self-sabotaging you right now, causing imbalance in your physical world around you. Just acknowledging that. Even that there's courage there. And obviously, like as always, if this resonates for you, you'll know. And with the Eight of Cups reversed, exposing your underbelly to the light, like removing the shell that's covering, the hard covering around like whatever you're protecting down there in your subconscious. Ooh, like some of you, yeah, you're like really afraid of whatever's in your subconscious. And I don't think you need to be. I'm gonna be real. And it's not to say that there's nothing in there that could potentially be, a lot to deal with. It's not even saying that, but it's saying like, I think the shoving that down and being afraid of it is worse than the actual experience of digging it up. And what that will entail. I think that experience, like look at this Knight of Pentacles, going back to him over here. He's happy doing his little daily practice, his little daily work on himself. And he's enjoying the work. And he's taking his time and letting it build up over time, And I think that's really what it's about for you, is letting yourself take your time and even enjoy the work. And not feel like you have to like dive all the way down to the bottom of everything all at once. And realizing that the rewards for doing this work itself will outweigh any of the difficulty that you have in doing the work. With exposing your underbelly to the world, it's like not running away from your deep fears and emotions anymore, but exploring them with curiosity. Yeah, being really curious about it. Nine of Intelligence, Nine of Swords. I mean, I'm going to read from the little booklet here, actually, for that one. But, like, it's removing your fears and anxieties, like, through this work. I mean, it's going to be so worth it. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you do that? It's really just straight up facing your mental fears. And hold on. Looking at how thoughts can create turmoil and finding a way to observe them from a dispassionate place of stillness. Yeah. So when we actively avoid things because we're afraid of them, we actually give them more weight. Like, we give them the importance that we don't want them to have. When we look at the thing and let ourselves actually acknowledge it head on, we're saying, I'm not afraid of you. It's not worth being afraid of this thing. And then it takes the bite out of it immediately, basically. So some of you gotta be like a little like a vigilante in your own mind, in your own subconscious, right? You gotta like bring yourself to justice in the sense of like you're kind of setting yourself free. You're setting yourself free is really what you're doing. And Barbara Gordon as Batgirl might be a helpful persona to embody, like the idea of like being a vigilante in your own mind, right? And bringing the thoughts and bringing the thoughts that are like bringing you down or that you're afraid to look at, bringing the things that drain your energy to justice. Like maybe imagining yourself, maybe one exercise you could even do is like, if you're feeling some kind of way, or if you're setting aside time to do specific shadow work, like say if you're doing shadow work in the way where people like do journaling prompts and stuff like that, you're imagining, or doing a meditation, you're imagining yourself as like a vigilante and you're like, oh, like you go in and you're like, oh, like who do we got here, who's causing trouble right now, like, you know, and then you deal with them that way, and you like kind of imagine yourself like that. And it's like there's a certain point at which we need to embrace the things that cause us trouble, right? But to start, it might be a good way to start to imagine yourself as someone who works outside the law of your mind in order to bring thoughts that work outside the law of your mind to justice, so to speak, to like confront them and bring them into the light, basically. Yeah. But you're not fighting yourself. One thing about Batman, and I'm just getting into Batman, the character in general, is that often I feel he could be compassionate towards his villains because he is a person who has a lot of darkness within himself, and so he understands a lot of his villains that he faces have that darkness within them. Now, he might not be the most emotionally integrated person in the world or character that you could come across, but it's kind of like he cares so much because he can recognize himself in these criminals, and he does have a lot of empathy for like the ones who are, because like he has his Arkham Asylum, right? Like the people who are like mentally ill, and like he actually has compassion for that because he also kind of is. And it's like seeing yourself not as separate from your darkest parts, but seeing yourself as almost the same as them, and realizing that when you can embrace that, and you can like embrace your like dark, gritty self, then you can find a way to work with them. And that might be a little bit outside of Batman's wheelhouse. Like, let's not get too caught up in the analogy, because I feel like what you're doing is like going in and seeing where your perceived weaknesses are actually strengths. Going back to, I think you know how to love better than any of us. That's why you find it all so painful. It's like loving deeply is a strength, but it can feel like a weakness when all you emphasize is the pain that you feel because you feel so deeply, right? Because you care so much. And it's like being able to look at why you're feeling the pain and realizing that it's coming from a place of love, something from group 1 might resonate with you, by the way, then you can start to embrace the parts of loving that are actually strengths and be more reconciled to, because I don't even want to be like, oh, I don't even like the idea of, it's all about perspective. It really is. And I think for some of you, you're starting a new cycle. So I think where you're starting at it's really just acknowledging all the stuff, being brave enough to even go in and look at it at all, right? And the perspective that you form around the parts of yourself that you're uncovering, around the thought patterns that you're facing, around the fears that you're letting yourself look at, that's going to evolve over time. So I'm not going to try to like walk you through the whole process right now. I think we're just starting that process. But I think it is a process where you're coming to look at the things that cause you pain and understand the truth of where they're coming from, and maybe being surprised about what you find. Definitely being surprised about what you find. And I think that it's really just a matter of starting to open up to that process. And if you have to strong arm yourself a little bit into it, if you have to go in and maybe be a little combative at first to get the process started, and embrace bravery in that kind of way, then I think that you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to be a little cautious. You're allowed to go in swinging. But you also might be surprised to find that as you go through the process, your perspective shifts and you take a different approach as you go. But I think you're just starting it out right now, exploring yourself more deeply. I think there's a level of yourself that you're only just starting to tap into, and so I think it's going to take some time for you to move through that and really figure out what that process is going to look like for you down the line. Interesting. One thing I want to add about your group, just because it's kind of funny, is that when I was shuffling your character card, I like got a card and I was like, I don't think this is it. I put it back. Then I got Barbara Gordon and I was like, I don't know. I don't want to do Barbara Gordon. I don't know why. I don't really want to do it. So I put it back, but I said out loud, I said, okay, I'm shuffling this up again for group 2. I promise whatever character comes out next, I won't argue with it. I'll just take it. And then guess who popped out again? Barbara Gordon. And I was like, haha, okay, heard, loud and clear, got it. And so I went with that. So that might be significant for some of you too, in that things might keep coming up and you might keep being like, no, that's not, I don't need to look at that. No, that's not for me, whatever. And what you might need to do is just ask again. Be like, okay, if this thing is for me, if this message is for me, if I need to look at this again, if this is something that's important for me, then show me a sign or like tell me, and I promise I will listen. If it comes up again, I'm just going to go with it. You know, if this is something that comes up again for me, I'm going to listen to it. And just say that, just make that a promise that the next time it comes up, if it's for you, you're going to listen to it, and then go with that. Does that make sense? You could take that as it resonates. Okay. That is going to be all for you, group 3. Very interesting. I feel like you're at the beginning of a very exciting journey because it's going to lead you places. There's some mystery here because I don't think you're meant to know yet exactly where it's going to lead you. I think that's part of the fun / fear of the experience, is that you're kind of going into the unknown. And patience with yourself is I think the biggest thing here in terms of exposing this underbelly of your like subconscious, of your mind. But it feels exciting. So I would say if there's anything you can take from this, it's the idea that fear and excitement are kind of the same physiological reaction in our body, but it's sort of the perspective that we come at them with. And so if you can start transmuting fear to excitement when you think about exploring your depths, the depths of your subconscious, you're going to have a very interesting experience. Maybe you got to design yourself a vigilante uniform. I don't know, like create a character, draw it out. I don't know, write it out, whatever you want to do. Create a character to accompany you on your deep dives into your subconscious. That might be fun. So that's a very interesting and strange message, but I suppose I'm getting it because it's going to resonate with someone out there. So I wish you a lot of luck on your journey with that, and sounds like a good time. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you are interested, please check the link in the description, sunflowerphilosophy.com, for our services: hypnosis, tarot, human design. And also, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in another video again sometime soon. Bye! Hi, Group 4, if you selected this quote, stop treating your pain like it's something you imagined. If you can see the wound is real, then you can heal it. Then you are in the right place. And today's reading is all about courage, and we are exploring an area of life that you can use more courage in, and then we're also going to look at what exactly courage looks like for you in this scenario. So, because courage is something that's subjective, depending on context, depending on personal experience, and it can look like a different thing for everyone. It's not always something that's obvious that is the same across all experiences. So, first things first, we have a couple tarot cards here, and we'll talk about your quote as well, but we have a couple tarot cards here. We also have a character card to just help us get more information, and these cards in particular are going to be for what situation you're facing right now, like what area of your life you need more courage in, or that you're looking for more courage in. So we have the Hierophant and the Eight of Pentacles. So, okay, well, I feel like for some of you, it's like work and school, profession, confidence in your abilities to get what you want done. We also have the character Samwise from Lord of the Rings. Love Samwise. Okay, so with stop treating your pain like it's something you imagined, if you can see the wound is real, then you can heal it. I mean, some of you might need to face some wounds within you, some pain that you might be discounting right now. You might be shoving it away. You might be saying, I don't have time to deal with this. And some of you might be using work or school or like busyness to avoid it. Or you might be using that as an excuse to say, I don't have time to deal with this. But it's something that would actually be getting in the way of you fulfilling your potential in the way that you want to, focusing in the way that you want to, learning in the way that you want to, growing in the way that you want to, becoming a leader in the way that you want to, because it needs to be faced in order for you to fulfill that potential, in order for you to focus again, to put the time and effort that you need to do the thing. But I think there's more here to this, so if that's not resonating quite yet, let's get more into it, because I think there's more going on here. So, Eight of Pentacles and the Hierophant. I'm getting the example that for example, if you are studying to be some kind of counselor or psychologist or something in the mental health field, and you obviously need to go through a good amount of schooling for that and studying and practicing. But an important element of your work is not only the work that you're doing in school or the work that you're doing directly with clients, it's also the work that you're doing on yourself. So it's like especially obvious in those kinds of fields where you're working with other people. If you are helping other people with their mental health, you must also be helping yourself with your mental health. Like, you are also your life's work, right? So it's treating your self-care as part of your profession, as part of your job, but not in a way where you're like, in like a way where you're taking it seriously, where you're taking it very seriously. You're taking it seriously from the perspective of wanting to truly have the experience that you want your clients to have, right? So that's a very specific example. It's not that your particular situation has to look like that, but you might be dealing with something similar. Or you might not even be seeing how your personal development is related to the development of your career or whatever you're working on, no matter if it's like a mental health profession or something else. With Samwise as the character, I mean, Samwise is very brave. He is determined. He is loyal. He is stubborn to the point of helping Frodo, his friend, with the cause. And it's almost like, okay, Yeah. I mean, with the example I gave of like having clients that you need to help or something like that, students or people that you're working with directly, it's like you might be a very loyal, stubborn, like, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, you want to help everyone else with their burdens, but you might be neglecting some of your own. So, courage for you may be acknowledging your own burdens and acknowledging the things that you need to work with within yourself instead of deflecting to other people. Like, instead of being like, okay, like, no, I got to put this aside because I've got to take on this other person's burden. And it might be difficult because for a lot of you, this might be part of your job, right? Part of your job, you could be a doctor. You take care of a lot of people's health. You could be in the mental health professions. You could be a firefighter. Any kind of service industry, any kind of service related job where you're working with other people and you feel a certain amount of responsibility for them. Teacher, parent. I'm saying professions because we have the Eight of Pentacles here and the Hierophant. And that to me gives like some kind of like spiritual professional, something like that. Anything like that. I think for a lot of you it is related to your job, or you take this on like it's your career, like no matter if it is part of it directly or not. And there's something here about needing to take that same attitude with yourself, and that being an act of courage for you. So let's get more information on that. Let's get more information on what courage looks like for this group. What does courage look like for group 4 right now? What does courage look like for group 4 right now? I don't know why I said it like that. All right. What does courage... Ooh, all right. This one jumped off the table. Oh, I love that. I don't know why, but that Page of Cups makes me so happy. What does courage look like for group 4 right now? What does courage look like for group 4 right now? What? You know what? I will take all 3 of those. Thank you. Wait. Okay, there we go. We are... I do feel like for a lot of you, there's a lot of like, oh, I don't have time to deal with my own stuff because other people have stuff and I have to deal with their stuff because it's my job kind of thing. That's a very strong vibe that I'm getting. Okay, so we have the Page of Cups, we have the 3 of Cups, we have the Fool reversed, we have the King of Swords, and we have the Emperor reversed. King of Swords reversed, Emperor reversed. Okay, so... what does courage look like for you right now? Well, with the Page of Cups here, courage for you looks like self-mastery. That's a word I just got. It's not always a word I associate with the Page of Cups, but it is something I got. Self-mastery. Page of Cups, to me, it's also like... stop treating your pain like it's something you imagined. If you can see the wound is real, then you can heal it. Page of Cups can have to do with childhood. It can be facing a childhood wound. It can be facing your inner child. It can be being open to being surprised, because when you open your mind to surprises, you leave yourself open to break out of a pattern that you might not have even known you've been in. Open-mindedness. There's something here about open-mindedness. And I think it's a lot of open-mindedness towards yourself. And it could have to do with other people as well. It could have to do with, for some of you, growing in your profession or like teaching or area of work could also be about not treating your own pain as imagined, because you're also learning to not treat other people's pain as imagined. It's like opening your mind up to your own experiences as well as the experiences of the people around you. It'll be different for everyone, so take it as it resonates. With the Three of Cups here, this is like, to me, having fun with others, lightheartedness, friendship. It might be also opening yourself up to, like, courage for you might be opening yourself up to having more fun. With the Page of Cups and the Three of Cups, having more fun, tapping into your childlike energy, and maybe sharing that with other people as well. Because you might be very career focused, you might be very serious, you might have a job that's very serious, you might be very serious about your studies, and you might not be acknowledging how you're missing out on some fun right now, or you're putting too much pressure or stress on yourself. You're maybe doing this to the detriment of yourself, even if you're not avoiding like specific wounds or pain. You might be avoiding the fact that like you're overworking yourself right now. And there might be some courage that you need to face in terms of opening up to having more fun, opening up to being more spontaneous and less focused and directed in a certain direction. With the Fool reversed, courage for you right now. Courage for you right now looks like not jumping into situations without thinking, which sounds a little bit counter to what I just said, but I don't think it is. I feel like it's not jumping into situations without thinking first, in the sense that you might encounter, like, okay, what I said about being open to surprises, it's like being open to things happening in a different way than you expected, or being open to the solution to something being different than what it has been in the past. So when I say not jumping into something without thinking, it's almost like not just like jumping into a situation expecting it to be what it's always been, pausing for a second and noticing where you might have initially had a certain pattern that you were going to repeat in a situation where maybe it's not actually what you think. And so it's like having the courage to step back and be like, this is going to be different than what I think it's going to be. Or there might be another perspective here I can approach this from. Or maybe it's worth doing this in a different way, approaching this in a different way. It could be approaching like a solution to a problem that you're facing in a different way, approaching a client in a different way, approaching a situation you have with a client in a different way than you have before with that client or with a different client. Being open to so like I just got a specific example of like if you're working with like a person and you're used to having a certain archetype in your head of like this person and the specific issue that they're dealing with or the specific context that you're dealing with them in. That might be getting you too stuck in this rut of like being too comfortable seeing people through a narrow lens, where in order to better your work, in order to step up, in order to improve your life and yourself, you need to open up to seeing this person through a different lens that's not the prescribed lens that you've been given. I keep getting the mental health professional example where it's like, someone coming in with a specific diagnosis and they're like, okay, I've dealt with so many people with this diagnosis and it always goes like this, and this, and these people are all like that, and that, you know? And you're like coming in with this very specific perspective with which you are looking at this person with, because they have this one label put on them. But it's like, this is asking you to have the courage to step outside those boundaries and be open to all the different possibilities for that person. And this, I'm using this very specific example, but you can apply this in a lot of different scenarios, and you can also apply this to how you approach yourself as well. And for some of you, it's like whatever you're doing in the external world is mirroring how you're doing it in your internal world. So like for some of you, those are the same thing, right? And for some of you, it's more internally focused, and for some of you, it's more externally focused. But it's like, yeah, having that pause before you just jump in, because you might not realize that something is going to, a different perspective having the courage to consider that things are different than how you have been projecting them to be in certain scenarios. The King of Swords in reverse as well. I do feel like that's... And the King of Swords and the Emperor reverse, not needing to know everything. Not needing to put a label on everything up front. Being open to the thing showing you what it is. The person showing you who they are. Asking different questions than you would have asked of yourself, of a situation, of a person. Switching up how you approach something. And this is going to take courage because it can be scary sometimes to admit we don't know. It could be scary sometimes to open up to the idea that maybe we could have been wrong in the past, or maybe we could be wrong now. It can be scary to open up to the idea that the way that we've seen things for so long, well, we might be ready to change that and see things differently. And sometimes we feel threatened by that because we think that invalidates everything we've experienced before, and we might feel guilty, or we might feel like a failure for having a different perspective. But I feel like there doesn't need to be so much judgment around that, although you might feel that at first. But that's why it takes courage, right? Because there's fear around that. But when you are brave enough to say, well, okay, and if I was wrong, well, now I can be open to a new perspective. Now you seem like someone who cares a lot about whatever you're building, about whatever career you have, about whatever clients you might have, whatever profession you might have. And so I feel like for you, at the end of the day, it's going to matter more that you're doing your job as best as you can than it is going to matter that you feel like you've been right 100% of the time. Like I'm getting like a doctor who's like sticking so closely to like the rule books of what they've been taught from like 50 years ago, when like there's been new discoveries and advancements that they're not taking into account because they're still so by the book and they're afraid to go outside of the book, versus a doctor who's like up on the new discoveries and really taking in new perspectives and really open to dealing with different patients in different ways than they might have been taught 50 years ago, right? It's like that kind of thing. And I feel like for a lot of you, it's more important to you to be open-minded because you want to do the best that you can and you really care. But it does take some courage to take that step sometimes, right? And with the Emperor, it's reverse. It's like letting go of control, you know? It's like taking control of your life by letting go of control, right? Because sometimes the more that we try to hold on to things that might be outdated, the less in control we really are of ourselves and of the outcomes that happen around us. Whereas when we're open and we're receptive and we're able to go with the flow and move more flexibly, because there's like a rigidity here that I think you're letting go of. It's like, yeah, there's something in you that you need some courage to let go of a certain amount of rigidity that you might have in your thinking, in your way of going about things, that is going to help you in, for a lot of you specifically, your career, but also in a lot of you, it might be in your personal life, in the things, and I think the main thing is looking at the places where you invalidate yourself and your experiences, and or invalidate other people and their experiences, without maybe even noticing, and maybe without even the intention to do so. But I do feel like I said, with Samwise and with a lot of the energy I'm getting here, you guys care a lot and you want to do your best. And I think that there's a lot here to love, and it doesn't mean that you can't change your mind or change your perspective. But you have to be brave enough to do so and realize that doing so is going to, it's only going to help you do your job even better. And a changing perspective is not a sign of having been wrong in the past. It's a sign of growth and change. And what else are we here to do, right? No one stays the same. Nothing stays the same. But it's the ability to open up to that and to be more lighthearted about it. I think with the Page of Cups and Three of Cups here, it's like to be able to be more lighthearted about these kinds of things and to come at it from a more curious, like childlike almost perspective. Lighthearted, childlike curiosity that's less concerned about, oh no, I have to be right all the time, I have to be smart, I have to be good, I have to be perfect, and more about the exploration. And so I think that's going to revamp a lot of your experience in whatever you're pursuing and whatever you're focused on in your life, and also possibly your relationship with yourself as well. Yeah. But there's a lot of heart here, and there's a lot of care, and there's a lot of passion. I do feel that in terms of whatever it is that you feel drawn to. I feel like you're someone with a lot of purpose, whether you know exactly what that is or not, and also whether it's something that you do through your career directly or you just embody throughout your life. And you can do that and be committed to your purpose and also take a more lighthearted approach and allow yourself to collaborate more, explore more, and be open to different kinds of perspectives. And it just takes a little bit of courage to do so. This is a very different energy from all the other groups, which it's so interesting when that happens. You can resonate with more than one, and they all might be related in some ways, but this is kind of fun. But yeah, I think there's some things that you might have been invalidating that it's worth taking another look at, taking another approach to, being more curious about, being more open-minded to, and letting yourself, having the courage to let yourself be quote unquote wrong, or to change your mind about something in some area of your life. And that's really exciting. And at the same time, maintain your steadfast and loyal and driven attitude, because that's, I think, who you are at your heart. And you get stuff done, you know? I think a lot of you really do, no matter in what way or context of your life. So I hope that was helpful for you. I think that's all we got. And so, yeah, I feel like you guys are healers here, whatever you do, whoever you are. So keep going with that. Be flexible, be lighthearted, take care of yourselves, and don't be afraid to grow. And so, yeah, if that was helpful, then feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You can check out our services that we offer in the link in our description, sunflowerphilosophy.com. We offer hypnosis, tarot, human design, and if you enjoyed that, I will definitely be making more videos here, so you can expect to see another video from me again sometime soon. Bye!